The signs of autumn began to show in late August in Central California. The leaves began changing color and the nights become cooler. Though it is the hottest time of the year in San Francisco, there are still days that typify what the season stands for. I began my search for the elusive autumn that I remember thirsting for even as a child. I've been in the Bay Area throughout my higher education career and knew it was time to capture what the season means to me and my native community in my hometown. I started first by documenting the school I go to as a doctoral student in the adjacent Richmond district. You can still see the trademark gingerbread homes glued together on another foggy and overcast day. The students in this portion go about their business as usual, not stopping to think about the sacred nature that this season represents for those rooted in this land. There's a beauty in the calmness and murkiness of this transitional period that only a select group are in tune with. While Generation Z is more concerned with the social media accounts and contraptions of manipulation, the season moves forward. This is not a blanket statement, but only one that is there to raise the question of one's priorities at a school where the cost of attendance is equal to that of a starter home in a state like Texas. I've made a few comrades in grad school, and I've even had some solid interactions with undergrads who remind me of the generation I grew up in, but most of my encounters at USF have been as off-putting as this.
Start off, I would like everyone to just imagine a forest, that you're in a forest, and picture all the trees, and picture one tree, and think about how many branches are on that tree.
I manifested this love within me, and it made me one of the most ambitious children you have ever met. I don't want to be president, but I want to be an astronaut and a writer. I want to go to outer space, and I want to write about it. I want to see everything and do everything and be everything and experience everything. I wanted it all.
Yeah, so it's no wonder every semester I feel the need to break out and hang with my friends back home, leave to another region for a couple of weeks to go frolicking in the woods upstate. I've never found my niche in academia. I've only learned to make it work for me, which is why especially during this season I had to head up north on Highway 5 where no so-called Indian summer exists. This was the first major US city I saw when I started roving in different states. It was never more brilliant than when I pulled in on that fateful 60-degree sunny day with the breeze in early October. Society was marching along with the residential areas displaying various hues of amber, copper, peach, and burgundy, simply bedazzling how in an urban environment you could see autumn in full swing. Portland, just like San Fran and Seattle, have managed to transplant these East Coast architectural designs to even apartment buildings and homes. That, coupled with the usually moist and overcast conditions, give it a distinct East Coast-like feel, albeit in a less frantic way. This satisfies my need to be in a city where I can zone out and wallow in a metro area that is reminiscent of the historical cities I've admired back east, but still remain on the West Coast where I'm most familiar with the weather, terrain, and culture. Portland is a city that I revere for its ecological preservation. It's a model that other cities should learn to follow. Of course, I have recommendations on how the system of land management can be improved, and like every city in this country, there should be more of us Indians at the helm of city projects and planning, but there are strides that Portland has made which I have not seen elsewhere. Having the opportunity to revel in an urban forest and parks dotting the landscape essentially brings the benefits of the country to the city. I was amazed at the parks that seemed to be around the corner from every business that I was at, and the peace of mind that I felt while I was still technically in a major US city is what really stood out for me. Now, Portland isn't without its problems of poverty, homelessness, drug addiction, increasingly higher cost of living, and lack of native people in positions of power, but there is no city I genuinely feel safer in than this one. And yeah, definitely I was at ground zero for the really evident elements of autumn, ranging from the maples, oaks, and aspens changing color to people wasting no time in enjoying the remaining daylight hours outdoors. So this is my thing. In every big city I go to in the country, I have to check out the college. So for some, they go to museums, theme parks, restaurants. For me, it's the university. Whether it's looking at potential places I want to apply for a job position at, auditing the class, going to an event, or just immersing myself in the ethos and atmosphere, I would imagine that it's because institutions of higher learning have been denied to my people, and it was a rarity for anyone back home to go to university right after high school. So I feel entitled to the resources available to me and maximizing what's there. These colleges are where society's young minds are being challenged, and the process of learning continues to take place into adulthood. Every aspect of this concept has always thrilled me, regardless of how my family members and friends would think it was weird, and probably rightfully so. For me, school was a world all its own, and always a hallmark of who I was. Okay, allow me to cut out the preaching and poetic language for a moment and have some fun with this project. After Portland, it was time to get back on Highway 5 and head further north to Skokomish County to visit a family friend and bask in the fact that I was in the only rainforest of my people's land in the western U.S. Then it was time to hop out to the jewel of the Pacific Northwest. As much as I love the countryside and enjoy the natural aspects of the land and the forest dwellers, I'm still young and have to go where the action and nightlife are. That brought me to Seattle. First to Beacon Hill, then Capitol Hill, and lastly the University District. Although it's turning into San Francisco North with the tech-based industry dominating and pushing out the stalwart population of the past in favor of the bourgeois lackeys of the system, this is still one of my favorite cities in the country for the ambiance, layout, uniqueness, and that native people have always made up a small but significant community here. I love the fact that the rain doesn't seem to affect the population. It's a staple here for 9 months out of the year, and people seem to just take it with a grain of salt. You can't have the lushness, emerald hills, and salmon runs without a whole lot of rain. Simple as that, and people know it. These same themes and the importance of water are ever present in the storytelling and beliefs of evolution to the natives in this part of Turtle Island. In other words, and especially in October, bring on the damn rain, and let it cleanse the land of the mighty red-shouldered hawk, sockeye salmon, and grizzly bear. From there I continued to my ultimate destination, Bigfoot country some would say, the woods outside of the Swinomish Reservation, a place where Sasquatch lurks and not creepy clowns. This is where I'm most at home at, drifting and free from all the modern distractions of the outside world, alongside the Puget Sound and the tastiest shrimp, mussels, and oysters in the world. Yup, natives are blessed to call this place home and bear witness to the sunshine gleaming on the waters underneath. Few places I've been to come close to the side of this landscape, but back to the res. For anyone curious about the side of what one looks like, it was only right for me to show that it looks no different than any traditional suburban neighborhood. There are social problems that take place on the res, and not every part looks this nice, but you can see that it appears to be your average middle-class neighborhood in California, just with the forested backdrop and some aspects that carry out the stamp of the tribe and the pride they feel for one another. Just like any underprivileged neighborhood from east to west, you see a mixed bag of people claiming ownership of their identity, battling against the oppressor, and making ends meet with any resources they can make use of. The never say die belief of the red race is on display here. On a lighter note, I had to include first the magical trees that are native to this area and how grand they appear, whether a verdant green shade or in a transitional stage, but for everyone's knowledge, the different berries that are plentiful here, but you never find one in any ordinary grocery store. It would have been sweet if a few more delights were featured like salmonberry, bearberry, chokecherry, and gooseberry, but you get the picture. That I'm obsessed with berries and the Northwest is like heaven to me. Furthermore, this reservation is fortunate enough to have the funds and opportunity to exhibit their talent of local artists. I was mesmerized by the patterns, shapes, and stylings throughout that were truly inspired by the appreciation people feel for the land their tribe developed from since their creation here. I got the same sense of what the land means to the people as I do when I return to my homeland in the desert Southwest. The sunset and its pinkish colors were extraordinary. I was lucky that I was there on the beach during the only break in the rainstorm to film what I swore was an entrance to an ethereal realm where our ancestors rest, yet continue to communicate with us below. These are the final scenes of my autumn adventure that served its purpose of discovering the treasures that await someone searching for where the rain falls on the west coast, the temperatures are cool, and the leaves change. I'm on my way back at this point, making a stop in Eugene, Oregon at this $50 a night spot that I found off the main strip this past March. Basic, but it gets the job done. My motto that I've always lived by. I knew I had to make my last moments of this autumn wonderland count and went about it skylarking in the rain near the university. You can see that the rain was coming down more than at any other time during this trip besides when I was in the Olympic Peninsula. This weather was a definition of autumn as far as I'm concerned, and the forest in the background of this college town only added to the experience. Nothing quite like cruising in it and hearing the windshield wipers go as they work overtime to clear a path for your vision while the population once again continue with their everyday activity, including this local football game, is completely oblivious to the rainfall that only increased throughout the evening hours. I kept bringing up the fact to folks that this felt like Christmas because it usually is blazing straight hot back home. We have to wait till December for this kind of weather. The buildings decorated with holiday lights, evergreen trees all over the place, and pumpkin, chocolate, and peppermint scents only added to the idea that I was somehow transported to December. Well, there was no way I could finish this film without fusing in my anthem, the instrumental rendition of Song Cry. Like my man Young B said when we were undergrads at San Francisco State, you always get all sympathetic listening to that song and playing it on rainy nights when you're driving through your old neighborhood. Well, here I am years later, not changing one bit, and this joint still evokes images of the past, regrets I have, questions unanswered, wondering what could have been, and contentment with life, taking away happiness from years gone by and the understanding that what happened beforehand is always with me and I'm thankful for it, but it's the present that I've shaped and can finally embrace. This is what coming to the Northwest did for me. I was permitted to see the glory of the season and drift physically instead of just mentally in an environment that's different than my home state, but also has similarities to the facets that my half-breed Indians in that small town south of San Jose adore and the surrounding areas. The forest took me on a ride like never before. Part of that was that I chose to come over here during October, but it was also me finally coming to terms with the idea that I'm no longer a 21-year-old kid, and even though I'm still living like every day is my last, there are new battles to be waged, more achievements on the horizon, additional memories to make, and other states to move to for any given amount of time, and Oregon and Washington are just another extension of this side of Indian land that I luxuriate in and will keep calling my name. Being in a place like this, the pure enchantment can make anyone reevaluate their position in life in relationship to the world, whether it's a city or nature. I had the opportunity to do this, and now I'm prepared to return home where Mount Shasta welcomes me back after spending 2 weeks away from where I still consider to be the greatest place on earth, as the awe-inspiring flamingo pink skies of late October traverse behind me, so I ride off into the sunset of my next journey of this domain that we're all fortunate enough to still be in.